Let's see how that goes. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your talk, and pardon my ignorance. I'm just curious if, with your citations of Gandhi and Martin Luther King, if you're kind of moving in a pacifist direction, or if that's a word you want to use?
Very provocative question, sir, and I appreciate that. The question is, in citing Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr., are you yourself following a pacifist path? The answer is no. I'm not a pacifist. I do believe that sometimes military intervention is necessary, particularly when the greatest humanitarian crimes are about to get underway, including, of course, genocides. And I, in this sense, am more a follower, if I can put it this way, of a man named Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who, during the era of Nazi Germany, was a Catholic priest. He started off as a pacifist and was transformed into someone who felt that Hitler was of such unmitigated evil that he needed to be killed. The only way to deal with somebody like that. And so Bonhoeffer did a couple of things. He participated in a plot to kill Hitler. It didn't work. And from Hitler's bunker, as he himself, as the Führer himself, was about to commit suicide, among the last orders he gave to the SS was to kill Bonhoeffer. That's what a threat Bonhoeffer was to him in his last moments. But the other thing that Bonhoeffer did was he started something called the Confessing Church, which was very much an antidote to the complicity of the Roman Catholic Church in allowing Hitler to come to power and sustain power. So once again, we see that people of faith are not always using religion to poison everything, as Christopher Hitchens would have it. As much as I love him, I disagree that religion has to poison everything. Sometimes religion is exactly the reason why people have the moral values to undertake missions of justice, just as Martin Luther King Jr. did in invoking the gospel of Christ, and just as Gandhi did when he came up with his concept of satyagraha, nonviolent resistance, which, let us never forget, is a combination of Hinduism and Jainism. Thank you.
How do you and how do you and other Muslim reformers deal with the doctrine of apostasy, and in particular the way that doctrine is used by radical Islamists to suppress free thought and expression?
The question is, how do you and other Muslim dissidents, I call myself a dissident, by the way, rather than a reformer. The reformers will come later. The dissidents are the ones who till the soil for them to succeed. How do I and other Muslim dissidents deal with the doctrine of apostasy in order to suppress, freedom of conscience, freedom of expression? Frankly, I ignore it. I ignore it because why give the enemies of reason and humanity more ammo than they deserve? And my critics, the ones that is who want to kill me, realize already that if they do succeed in killing me, they will only be making my cause for a liberal reformation within Islam higher profile and more palatable. And I'm not trying to be cavalier when I say this, sir. In fact, when I do give interviews to Muslim media, I very much address my audiences by saying that if some of you in this listening or viewing audience want to be the ones to do me in, just remember, you're only going to be helping me sell more books. You're only going to be helping my face be plastered on posters. Do you really want that? Do you really want to support my cause? I'd like to believe, of course, that this will make some of them think once and not just twice. And as for the nutters out there, even my bodyguard said, I can't do a damn thing about those guys. One final thing I'll say to you, so that you know that it's not just about individual acts of courage. A couple of years ago, a group of theologians and civic Muslim leaders descended in Amman, Jordan, to come up with what they called the Amman Declaration. And one of the big points they made in the declaration is that nobody in Islam has the right to declare somebody else an apostate. The question is, do declarations like that have any weight? Obviously, to the extremists, they don't. But my belief is that with declarations like this, coupled with a growing network of Muslim dissidents who are confronting our would-be assassins with shrugs of relative indifference toward them, my belief is that when you put those two developments together, you'll find that more and more younger Muslims now have an incentive to, in a way, come out of the closet as dissidents and indeed speak their mind freely so that they in turn can let others know Islam gives them the permission to be both thoughtful and faithful at the same time. Thanks. Yes.
Hi, I'm a Muslim myself. I just want to know, how do we reconcile the passages of Quran that you were talking about, the value of woman, with those passages that it is like if the woman doesn't obey her husband, the husband can lock her up and don't feed her and don't do this and don't do that, and other passages such like that.
Right. So the question is, because I'm not sure people at the back heard it, how do you reconcile as a Muslim passages of the progressive nature you're talking about, female-friendly passages, with those that state that a man can beat his wife if she disobeys him? Well, there are a couple of things to point out about this. First of all, I am the first to acknowledge that the Quran does contain anti-female passages as well. The Quran, like every other holy book, has many contradictions, and yeah, I know I'll be accused of blaspheming for saying that, blah, blah, blah. It has to be said, and I've said it in my book, and I will continue to say it out loud. But once again, within those contradictions, there's also some delicious ambiguity. For example, there's an American Muslim scholar, female, who is doing some work right now on reinterpreting that passage of the Quran which traditionally has been translated as a man can beat his wife. She has pointed out that the Arabic word used for beating actually has multiple interpretations and can just as easily mean that he walks away from his wife as much as it can mean that he beats his wife. So she is, like many other young Muslim American scholars, engaged in the hugely important task of reinterpretation. And I have to point out that far from being an un-Islamic task, reinterpretation is actually encouraged by the Quran, insofar as the Quran contains 3 times as many verses calling on us to think and analyze and reflect than verses that tell us what is absolutely right or wrong.